I will talk a little bit about the James Freeman incident at the end of this video. I don't know exactly when. I'm sure you'll just look for this picture and you'll get to it, but I'm going to talk about it at the end. This is just real quick. The governments are all corporations, just like McDonald's and Walmart. No, they're not. These are both beetles. They are not just alike. You can see similarities, but there are differences. If you can't figure out the differences, you're probably a sovereign citizen. This is a very basic definition of corporation. You can see a corporation is a company or group of people authorized to act as a single entity, legally a person, and recognized as such in law. A company or a group of people. The U.S. is a group of people. McDonald's is a company. McDonald's is organized under Title 8 of the Delaware Code. McDonald's and Walmart. This is Walmart, state of Delaware. This is McDonald's, also state of Delaware. They're both incorporated under Delaware laws, statutes. The U.S. is obviously not incorporated under Delaware's statutes. The U.S. is above the U.S. Delaware is subservient to the U.S., so it doesn't even make logical sense that the U.S. could be incorporated in Delaware. The U.S. is incorporated under its own law. It is sovereign. It is not incorporated under anybody else's laws but its own. The Constitution is the incorporating document of the U.S. The U.S. made the Constitution. The U.S. made the laws around the Constitution. The U.S. is its own incorporating state. It's completely different than a corporation. Just like Delaware is different than McDonald's or Walmart. Delaware is a state that has its own constitution that it developed itself. It made its own bylaws, and it didn't have to run those bylaws past anybody else other than the United States, I guess. Delaware is similarly a group of people, not a company. So if you can't figure out not just how things are similar, but how they're different, then you might be a sovereign citizen. If you can't figure out how the U.S. is different than McDonald's, then you are a sovereign citizen. Speaking of sovereign citizens, I have a stupid question for Common Joe's little sovereign citizen fans. Can you explain to me why Common Joe went in and asked the police if he could burn a flag? You see, the difference between me and Common Joe is Common Joe hates the police and I don't. I recognize when they do wrong, and I recognize when they do right, and I recognize when they're treading a gray line right down the middle. But Common Joe hates the police. Why would Common Joe ask the police if it was legal for him to burn a flag? Now, I recommended that they talk to an attorney. So the reason why I recommend they talk to an attorney, obviously I'm not going to make anything off this. I'm not an attorney in Texas. They wouldn't talk to me. That's fine. I recommended they talk to an attorney because if they talked to an attorney and the attorney gave them bad advice and they ended up getting arrested and or convicted or whatever, then they could sue the attorney for malpractice. They could show it. They could show the paperwork the attorney gave them, the memorandum of points and authorities or whatever, as going to their intent as a mitigating factor. They can use that memorandum of points and authorities to try to convince the court to believe the same thing the attorney did, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of advantages to go get an attorney's advice. The biggest one being you could sue them if they commit malpractice. But getting a policeman's advice is about as pointless as you can get, because You know how when the police are taking your statement and they say whatever you say can and will be used against you? Whatever the police say won't be used in your favor. It's called hearsay. That is an actual hearsay example. If you try to say, well, the police officer told me something, then the prosecution is going to say, objection, hearsay. And then the defense attorney is going to try to figure out an exception, quickly realize that there isn't one, and then the judge is going to say, objection sustained. Because what the police officer says to you is hearsay. I mean, theoretically, if the police officer gets on the stand and your defense attorney gets to question him, then maybe you could get it out that he said something different. You could use his statement to impeach him or whatever, theoretically. But hearsay can be used against the declarant, but it can't be used for the declarant. Or it can't be used for you. You're the declarant, so your words can be used against you, but you can't use other people's words for you. I hope that makes sense. And that's a general thing. All hearsay laws vary from state to state, and the federal rules are different than state rules, et cetera, ad infinitum. But I haven't seen a state yet that doesn't allow the declarant exception. So there you go. But this guy asks the police, and then everybody in that little entryway gets arrested, except for somebody. Explain to me why that somebody doesn't get arrested, my little conspiratard friends. I'm not saying he's working with the police, but I am saying he didn't get arrested. He asks the police. He defers to the police. He doesn't get arrested by the police. I'm asking you to add up 1 and 1 and get 2 here, my little conspiratards. Think about why you trust this guy. Think about it. He gets people in trouble. He gets people to say and do things that don't help them in court. He stands to gain from his advice. He gains from you watching it. He gains from you supporting him. He stands to gain. He's obviously lied to you. He said he'd shut his YouTube down. He didn't. So he's a liar. He said he needed to support his family, but he's single. He said it in one of the live streams today. I was watching it on Freeman. Well, I was listening to it on Freeman as I was driving back from a ex parte hearing this morning. So you explain to me, one of you little conspiratards who aren't latched onto his nuts. You explain to me why you trust this guy. Oh, he hates the police. Really? 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 All right, dude. He hates the police. That looks like the face of a guy who's just about to get in a fight with the police, like he said in the van with Tucson Police Suck. Yeah, that looks like the face of a guy who's about to violently resist. No. This looks like the face of a guy who's going to say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" as the police blow a load in his mouth. No offense. This is what they apparently arrested him for. I don't know if it's what they're going to charge these guys for. I don't even know if they are going to charge them. Obstructing the highway or other passageway, Penal Code 42.03. The big deal on this one is, for the purpose of this section, obstruct means to render impassable or to render passage unreasonably inconvenient or hazardous. Now, they were blocking it, sure. Were they making it unreasonably inconvenient or hazardous? I don't know. Can they get arrested over this? Sure. It doesn't take a whole hell of a lot to get arrested over it, but can they get convicted over it? I have absolutely no idea. I'm going to have to look up case law if I get time to go to the law library. I'm not in Texas. It is hard for me to look up Texas case law, but I'll try to find something on it if I have time this week. But I can't tell you. Oh, you're siding with the police. No, I literally don't know. I can't give you probabilities or odds on any of this stuff because I just don't know. Can the police take the phones of witnesses? Well, can they take the phones of the people that are arrested? Absolutely. Can they search them? Not without warrants. Can they take the phones of witnesses? Maybe. That's another thing I'd have to actually look up in the law library because it would depend on the Texas Constitution. It would depend on Texas state law as well as federal law, as well as like Fourth Amendment kind of law. So I just don't know. I just don't know. I suspect that the whole reasonable standard of the Fourth Amendment is going to kick in, and if the police think it reasonable that the people might be likely to delete the footage or edit the footage or otherwise make the footage unavailable to the police for evidence, that they need to seize it, etc., and then get the warrants to search it later. That would be my gut instinct. I don't know if that's true, but that's where my gut's going. Oh, that means you're siding with the police. No. That means that I have a reasonable understanding of the Fourth Amendment and how it applies. And the reasonable standard of the Fourth Amendment means that they could probably seize it if there's a likelihood that the evidence would be lost if they don't. But again, I'm going to have to double check on it. And then they would still need, so they could probably, again, completely an uneducated guess, take the phones. But in order to actually go into the phones, they are probably going to need a warrant still. So either way, for the people who are arrested or the people who have had their phones seized and were not arrested, I think either way, the police are going to need warrants to get into the phones. Now, everybody was filming this little incident here. So there's a very good likelihood that a magistrate's going to say, yeah, there's probably going to be evidence of this crime, if it is a crime, on the phone. Which means that they're probably going to get a warrant to go in and find all the little videos that are on the phone, which means that hopefully, and I know everybody's going to think I don't really hope this, but I do. Hopefully these retards will not have incriminating evidence on their phone of other things. Hopefully. But if there is, then that'll be bad. Because they'll find it incident to a valid search warrant, and that'll be bad. So yeah, that's my quick, uneducated, uninformed take on what's going on with the Freeman incident. I do hear from his wife that he is spending a bunch of money on lawyers. That's probably a good thing. I would suggest that he listen to those lawyers and not try to bring protests into police stations. Protests are great if you're in traditional public forums, like if you're on sidewalks or in plazas or parks. If you actually take them into non-public forums, like a police station, then things can get a little wonky, and what was perfectly legal and acceptable can all of a sudden get you arrested. So that was dumb. I mean, if you didn't want to get arrested for it, that was just dumb. What were they? No, let me step that one back. Were they thinking? And if they were thinking, what exactly were they thinking? Because this was stupid. I'm sorry, it was stupid. Anyway, I probably beat this horse to death. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.